What if I told you that a 650-year-old biological time bomb has basically been hiding in plain sight?
Right, disguised as like a totally harmless golden hatchling.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
mean, we operate under this assumption that history is a solid foundation, you know, that the rules of magic are immutable laws of physics.
Yeah, that evolution is just this slow generational crawl that you read about in textbooks.
Right. But what happens when a single anomaly completely shatters that entire 600-year-old historical narrative, like in real time?
Well, you realize that the textbooks were written by the victors, and those laws of magic, they were really just temporary agreements.
Oh, that's such a good way to put it.
Yeah, because when you introduce an element that operates entirely outside the established taxonomy of an ecosystem, the whole system is forced into a stress test.
A massive stress test.
Exactly. And in the world of Navarre, that stress test isn't just theoretical anymore. It is actively dismantling the geopolitical and magical reality of the entire continent.
So welcome to a brand new deep dive. Today our mission is to decode the most enigmatic, systemic disruptor in Navarre.
We are, of course, talking about Andarna.
We are looking right at you, the listener, today, because we are tearing apart a massive stack of sources to figure out exactly what this dragon actually is.
It's a big stack today.
Oh, it's huge.
Yeah.
We've meticulously collected book excerpts charting Andarna's journey across Fourth Wing, Iron Flame, and Onyx Storm.
The canon material is essential, obviously.
Right. But alongside the canon text, we're examining a viral community analysis of the series' book covers.
That cover theory is wild, by the way.
It totally is. And we're also diving heavily into this razor-sharp, incredibly dense piece of analytical writing from the Hellions Book Nook blog.
Which completely upends pretty much everything we thought we knew about dragon biology.
Literally everything. So the central question we have to resolve today is, well, it's a matter of profound significance to the lore.
We really need to determine if Andarna is simply a young dragon experiencing an accelerated, albeit very unusual, biological maturation.
Right, like maybe she's just growing up fast.
Exactly. Or, and this is the big one, if she is fundamentally rewriting the rules of magic, biology, and survival as a direct response to an apocalyptic threat.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the sheer scale of the misdirection here is just brilliant.
It's masterful.
It really is. We have to start where it all began, which is threshing.
Right.
Because if we're going to understand Andarna's trajectory, we have to establish that her very existence on that field was a premeditated act.
She didn't just wander out of the veil by accident.
Exactly. So to understand the gravity of her presence at threshing, we really have to look at the baseline assumptions held by the Navarian military.
Which is that Feathertails are a massive liability.
Yeah. The narrative enforced by leadership, which is taught to every single cadet, is that they are vulnerable.
Almost useless creatures in a tactical combat setting, honestly.
Right. The military doctrine dictates they aren't supposed to bond at all because it's considered incredibly dangerous.
Because a Feathertail gifts their magic directly to the writer.
Instead of channeling it into a shaped signet, yeah.
Exactly. Which risks burning the human out entirely. They are kept sequestered in the veil for their own protection.
And the protection of the riders, yeah. Which sets the stage perfectly for the initial dismissal of her.
The contempt is immediate.
It really is. When this small golden feathertail steps onto the field, the human reaction, voiced incredibly loudly by cadets like Jack Barlow, is just pure mockery.
Jack literally calls her unrideable. He calls her useless in combat.
Right. And there is this deep mockery directed at Violet for even considering stepping in to protect her.
The assumption is just that Andarna is a mistake.
A biological error who, slipped past the elders or something.
But the sources provide this staggering revelation later on, and it's a point the Hellions Book Nook blog really anchors its entire thesis on.
Oh, this part gave me chills.
Yeah, Andarna is not a random hatchling. She waited 650 years to hatch.
How don't you just stop and think about that? 650 years.
The chronological implications of that are staggering.
Totally. The blog frames this through what they term the 650-year alignment theory.
Right, because if a dragon remains in stasis within an egg for over 6 centuries, we have to analyze the environmental triggers.
Why go into stasis and why come out?
Exactly. What was the geopolitical and magical state of the continent 650 years ago?
That was the era of the first 6.
Right. That was the inception point when dragons originally made the unprecedented decision to bond with humans in the first place.
And they did that out of sheer necessity, to fight the Venin.
Yes. The Dark Wielders were consuming the magic of the earth.
And the dragons, Lacking opposable thumbs to weave protective wards or carve runes, they required human channelers.
They needed humans to construct a defense grid around their hatching grounds.
Exactly. The bond was a strategic alliance forged in the fires of an existential threat.
So if we apply the blog's theory here, Andarna didn't hatch randomly in Violet's first year at Basgiath.
No way.
She waited in that shell for over 6 centuries, precisely until the Venin began returning in force.
Until the protective wards started to degrade.
Right, and the entire Navarian system began to fracture. She didn't just choose to hatch, she calculated the exact moment of her emergence.
It's like a 650-year alarm clock. She is acting less like a traditional biological organism and more like, I don't know, an adaptive immune system.
That's a great analogy.
Right. A virus, the Venin re-enters the continent, and Andarna is the bespoke antibody generated specifically to hunt that exact virus.
She didn't just wake up because she felt like it.
She woke up because the house was catching fire. The overarching magical ecosystem was under attack, and she was the countermeasure.
But this brings us to her initial physical form.
Yeah, the golden feathers.
Right. She's goldy-feathered, rounded, small. She looks like the absolute definition of harmless.
Which is such a trick.
It is. The blog argues that we, alongside the characters, fell for a profound illusion. We assumed Feathertail equated to peaceful.
Because it's a deeply ingrained human bias to equate softness and a golden hue with vulnerability, right?
And benevolence. We impose our own mammalian understanding of infancy onto a creature that operates on an entirely different magical axis.
We totally do. And the blog makes a really compelling argument regarding her initial time-stopping ability, too.
Yes. Initially, we view this power as a miraculous, purely defensive gift.
But the blog suggests this wasn't her ultimate power at all.
Not at all. It was a containment phase.
A temporary holding pattern. But I want to push back on that a little bit, or at least nuance it, because we have to look closely at the physics of what she actually accomplished at Rheason before we dismiss it as just containment.
That's a fair point. She did stop time.
Yeah. Violet is falling, surrounded by Wyvern and a Venin, and when she taps into Andarna's golden power, time literally pauses.
It arrests the kinetic energy of an entire battlefield.
Exactly. So Violet can position a lightning strike directly over a Venin. Stopping time isn't just a passive defensive shield.
No, it is an alteration of the fundamental laws of physics.
It's God-tier power.
It is an absolute manipulation of reality, you are correct. But we really must analyze the physiological cost of wielding that power.
The toll it took on her.
Right. The text shows us that utilizing that ability practically broke her physical form.
Oh, she was wrecked.
It drained Andarna so severely that she was forced into a month-long state referred to as the dreamless sleep.
Yeah, she was just gone for months.
So the blog's argument isn't that time-stopping lacked power. The argument is that it lacks sustainability.
Okay, I see what you mean. It was too much for her little body.
Exactly. It was the raw, unfiltered magic of a creature that had not yet stabilized its physical vessel.
It was a localized burst of energy that her juvenile feathertail body just could not maintain without collapsing.
The dreamless sleep was essentially a necessary biological reboot.
And that biological reboot acts as the hinge for the entire narrative. Because when she emerges from that dreamless sleep in Iron Flame, everything is different.
The golden, time-stopping Feathertail is completely gone.
Gone. And if her physical body is adapting to camouflage against the Venin, it stands to reason her biological presentation can't remain small and golden.
No, which pushes us directly into what the blog post brilliantly classifies as the savage logic of her transformation.
The savage logic, I love that term so much.
It fits so perfectly, because the physical shift is profoundly jarring. When Andarna awakens, she has nearly doubled in size.
She's huge.
Her scales are a deep, absorbing black, though they flash with iridescent green and blue hues depending on the ambient light.
And, most notably, she possesses a scorpion tail.
Right. Now, when Iron Flame was released, there was a massive wave of internet theorizing, trying to explain this away as just standard dragon biology.
Oh, I remember everyone was like, oh, she just hit puberty.
Exactly. The prevailing thought was simply she hit puberty, her scales darkened as she matured, and the breed characteristics manifested as a spiky tail.
But the Hellions Booknook post systematically dismantles that biological inheritance theory.
They completely tear it apart.
Yeah, they point directly to the canon text. When they are on the island in Onyx Storm, Andarna explicitly states to the Irids,
I chose my tail.
Yes, I chose my tail. She does not inherit her form through, like, a genetic lottery. It is actively selected.
The distinction between evolution and expression is paramount here.
Explain that a bit more.
Well, standard biological evolution relies on random mutation and generational selection over millennia, right?
Right, it takes a long time.
But what Andarna is doing is immediate physiological expression based on environmental data.
She's doing it in real time.
Exactly. If she is actively choosing a scorpion tail, which is a weaponized appendage upon her transition from juvenile to adolescent, it indicates her physical traits are not predetermined at all.
She is assessing the threat landscape of Navarre.
Yes. She's recognizing the impending war with the Venin and deliberately constructing a physical vessel optimized for lethal combat.
It's a terrifying level of biological autonomy when you think about it.
It really is.
It would be like, I don't know, a human teenager deciding to grow dermal armor just because the crime rate in their city went up.
That is exactly what it's like.
But it isn't just the tail, right?
Yeah.
We have to examine the scales. She wakes up black.
Right.
And when my initial read-through happened, my first thought was honestly that she was just mimicking Tarn.
Oh, sure, because Violet is bonded to him.
Yeah, and Andarna views him as the sort of paternal figure. But the blog suggests something much more strategic and honestly much more chilling.
Mimicry is definitely a factor, but the blog posits that her black coloration is a highly calculated misdirection.
It's camouflage on a macro scale.
Exactly. We know from established Navarian taxonomy that black dragons exist within the standard 6 breeds.
Right, they're not a secret.
They are rare, they are highly intelligent, and they are tactically built for nocturnal operations.
So by choosing black, Andarna doesn't just blend in with the night sky.
No, she blends into the established, accepted taxonomy of the Writer's Quadrant.
She hides in plain sight by appearing as a recognized, albeit rare, breed.
But the text in Onyx Storm proves she isn't fundamentally black at all.
Oh my gosh, yes. We see her scales actively shift colors in real time.
It's incredible.
When they're flying through the jungle, the text notes she turns green and blue, perfectly mirroring the sky and the dense foliage.
And then there is that incredible scene where she needs to hide against a cliff face.
Yes. The text describes her springing forward, expanding, and her scales shifting until she literally looks exactly like a boulder.
A boulder. The biological mechanism required for that level of rapid chromatophore manipulation is just astounding.
It's insane.
If she can shift her pigmentation completely to mimic granite or foliage or the night sky, then her base form is incredibly fluid.
Her physical presentation is 100% a tactical strategy.
Which raises a critical question regarding the catalyst for this expression.
Right, like what is driving it?
Exactly. What precise environmental pressure is driving this phenotype? Is she responding to Violet's psychological need for a protector?
Or is she sensing the degradation of the Navarian wardstones?
Or is it the escalating proximity of the Venin?
The blog's savage logic theory concludes that she is a reactive entity. She becomes exactly what the world demands in order to ensure survival.
Period.
Which brings us to this fascinating threshold. Because if her physical body is adapting to camouflage against the Venin and provide a lethal physical response, it stands to reason her magical output can't remain purely defensive either.
No, it has to evolve as well.
Time-stopping was a shield, but now she needs a sword.
And the magic she begins expressing as an adolescent completely breaks the foundational rules of the Writer's Quadrant.
It shatters them. We have to trace the trajectory of that shifting magic system.
Let's do it. As a Feathertail, she gifted the manipulation of time.
Right.
But when she transitions into an adolescent and physically matures into that weaponized form, the time-stopping ability vanishes.
It is completely inaccessible to Violet.
Yes. Instead, she begins to develop a deeply specific offensive capability. Fire.
But it is not standard dragon fire.
Not at all. It is Venin blistering fire.
In Onyx Storm, during that massive confrontation, Andarna scorches a Venin named Theophany.
Right.
And the text explicitly notes that the Venin actually blistered.
Which is unheard of.
Exactly. Normal dragon fire, even Terrence fire, does not have that physiological effect on dark wielders.
Venin absorb magic. They don't burn like human flesh.
Right. But Andarna theorizes to Violet that because she was actively shifting the color of her scales at the exact millisecond, she expelled the fire.
She somehow altered the magical frequency.
Yes, bypassing the Venin's absorption capabilities and physically damaging them.
She essentially hints that her specific magical wavelength could be the key to neutralizing or even curing the dark wielders.
The tactical implications of a dragon capable of bypassing Venin magic absorption are world-shattering just on their own.
Oh, absolutely. But the magical anomalies surrounding Andarna extend far beyond her fire.
They really do.
Because simultaneously, as Andarna is developing this unique offensive capability, Violet begins manifesting a terrifying, completely unprecedented second signet, dreamwalking.
The introduction of dreamwalking gave me absolute chills by reading the source material.
It's terrifying.
It really is. It isn't framed as a quirky, useful little side power. Azaddin explicitly corners Violet and warns her that dreamwalking is a highly illegal, profoundly dangerous form of intensic magic.
We really need to define why intensic magic, the ability to read or manipulate minds, is a mandatory execution offense in Navarre.
Right. They will kill you for it, no questions asked.
Exactly. Standard intensics can read surface thoughts or intentions, which is dangerous enough for a military state.
Yeah, you can't have soldiers reading the general's minds.
But dreamwalking breaches the ultimate psychological barrier. It is the ability to project into and read a mind while the subject is in REM sleep.
A state where cognitive shielding is biologically impossible?
Yes. When you are awake, a trained writer can build mental walls.
Like Zazen taught Violet to do.
Exactly. But you cannot shield while you are unconscious.
You're completely vulnerable. And Azaddin points out the sheer terror of this tactical advantage.
He lays it out so clearly.
He says Violet could project herself straight into the dreams of General Melgren, the commander of all Navarian forces.
She could extract his deepest strategic secrets.
And he would wake up with absolutely no idea his mind had been compromised.
It is the ultimate, undetectable breach of military security.
It's a nightmare for leadership.
Yeah.
If they discover she can do this, it won't matter that she is the only rider bonded to a dragon that can blister Venin.
No, they will snap her neck immediately.
Immediately.
Yeah.
And they'll classify it as a necessary defense of the state.
But the paradox here is what truly demands analysis. We must examine the established physics of Navarian magic.
Let's get into the mechanics.
Scale explains the mechanics very early in the series. A signet is not a random gift.
Right, it's not like you just pick one out of a hat.
It is a highly specific combination of the raw power provided by the dragon, filtered through the psychological and physiological needs of the human channeler.
The human acts as a biological filter.
Precisely.
Which is where my understanding of the lore hits a massive roadblock.
Because of the two signets.
Right. If a signet requires a specific resonance between one dragon and one rider, how can a single dragon Andarna fuel two entirely unrelated, fundamentally different, and historically forbidden signets for Violet?
It shouldn't be possible.
First, the manipulation of time, and now the invasive infiltration of the subconscious mind. These are not variations of a single elemental affinity like fire or ice.
No, they're entirely different magic systems.
It makes no sense under the established rules.
And this exact contradiction is where the Hellions Book Nook blog provides its most brilliant synthesis.
This part blew my mind.
The standard rules of Navarian magic rely on a transactional, filtered bond. The dragon acts as a battery of raw elemental power.
And the human acts as the lens, shaping that power into a signet based on their core identity.
Right, but Andarna completely bypasses this biological filter.
She just ignores it.
The blog draws upon a crucial revelation from Onyx Storm. Andarna isn't a normal dragon channeling magic through a bond. She is magic.
We are magic. That is the exact phrasing used during the encounter on the beach.
Precisely. Because she is the physical embodiment of raw magic, rather than a creature merely wielding it, Violet isn't drawing a specific, localized signet in the way she draws lightning from Tarn.
Okay, wait, so what is she drawing then?
She is drawing unfiltered, instantaneous magical adaptation. The blog states, and I quote, "These are not variations of the same power. They are entirely different systems of magic."
So it's entirely situational.
Yes.
When Violet was falling at Rasan and needed time to stop to save her own life, Andarna's raw magic manifested as time-stopping.
Exactly.
Later, when the wars were failing and Violet was desperate to know the hidden intentions of the people around her to keep her friends safe, that raw magic molded perfectly into a form of intrinsic infiltration.
The magic shapes itself to the immediate, desperate necessity.
Because Andarna doesn't have the standard biological limitations of the other 6 breeds.
And that realization, that Andarna is an entity of raw, adaptable magic rather than a standard biological dragon, forces us to examine the most emotionally devastating and lore-shattering sequence in the entire source material.
We have to talk about the island.
We have to analyze the expedition to the island and the encounter with the Irids.
Here's where it gets really interesting and, frankly, incredibly tragic for Andarna.
It is heartbreaking.
The journey to locate the supposed seventh breed is built up as this desperate mission of hope. Aricia is vulnerable, the Venin are massing, and Violet and her squad need allies.
They desperately need the unique magical signature of the seventh breed to fire the Eurytian Wardstone.
Right, so when they finally track the coordinates to this isolated island, they find 6 dragons resting on a beach.
And immediately the established rules of dragon-human interaction are just discarded.
Tossed right out the window. The physical mechanics of the encounter immediately signal a paradigm shift.
The dragons on the beach are communicating telepathically with Violet, Rhydock, and the rest of the squad.
But there is no bond.
None. They are simply projecting their thoughts into the humans' minds with zero magical tether.
Which shouldn't be possible.
And they reveal their true classification. They are the Irids, the seventh breed.
We get a massive lore dump wrapped in this incredibly tense dialogue here. The Irids explain that they exist completely outside of standard Navarian dragon politics.
They want nothing to do with it.
They aren't part of the Empyrean squabbles over territory or human bonding. They explicitly tell Andarna that centuries ago they rejected war and human conflict entirely.
They literally walked away from violence.
They consider themselves a breed born for peace and tranquility.
But we must clarify that their pacifism was not entirely passive.
What do you mean?
Well, the historical record, as they explain it, notes that they contributed to the construction of the original wards.
Right, they helped build the defenses.
They provided their unique magical signature not to consolidate power or claim territory, but purely to erect a protective barrier.
Their entire philosophy is based on defense and isolation.
Which makes the truth of Andarna's existence all the more brutal.
She wasn't just left behind in the Vale by accident, was she?
No. The Irid Elder, a massive dragon named Leothin, looks at Andarna and tells her she was left behind as the criteria.
The criterion.
The measurement.
The litmus test. The Irids intentionally left her egg behind in a state of suspended animation to observe if humanity and the other 6 dragon breeds had evolved.
They wanted to see if over the centuries, the inhabitants of Navarre had learned to choose harmony under the protection of the Wardstones rather than continuously weaponizing magic for warfare. They expected Andarna to eventually wake up, assess the world, and return to the island to report that the continent had achieved a state of peace.
I mean, leaving a child in a suspended state for 6 centuries to act as a moral yardstick for an entire civilization is deeply questionable on an ethical level.
Highly questionable.
But putting that aside, let's look at what Andarna actually did. She didn't wake up to a peaceful world.
Not at all.
She woke up to failing wards and a Venin invasion. So she bonded a human while still a juvenile Feathertail.
She flew directly into a war zone at Risson.
She allowed her rider to channel her raw power to obliterate a dark wielder.
She selected a weaponized scorpion tail, developed camouflage scales, and learned to breathe Venin blistering fire.
She did exactly what was necessary to survive.
And that survival instinct leads to an agonizing rejection from her own kind.
It's so hard to read.
Leothin looks at Andarna, who, we must remember, is still psychologically very young and desperate for the approval of her biological family.
She just wants to belong.
Yes, and he tells her she has failed her purpose.
And then the female Irid on the beach escalates the condemnation even further.
She directs her fury at Violet,
stating, "You used her. You took advantage of a vulnerable child. You used her power as an instrument of warfare. And look what you have become."
They label Andarna a weapon, an abomination.
They look at this young dragon who adapted to save her rider's life, and they tell her she is fundamentally broken.
The emotional weight of that scene is just crushing.
Andarna is trying to navigate a geopolitical nightmare she didn't create, and her own species turns their backs on her out of ideological purity.
However, Leothin offers an ultimatum.
Right.
He tells Andarna she is permitted to return home with him, to the den. He offers to teach her the ways of the Irids.
To strip away the violence and teach her the tranquility she was meant to embody.
But the condition of her return requires a fundamental violation of Navarian law.
She must sever her bond with Violet.
And this is where the lore surrounding the bond is completely deconstructed.
Completely. Because in the Rider's Quadrant, the bond is taught as an unbreakable, sacred soul tie.
If it breaks, someone dies.
But Leothin dismisses it entirely. He says, bonds are merely magical ties. You are Irid. You are magic. Bend it, shape it, break it as you see fit.
He reduces this profound, life-altering connection to nothing more than a localized spell that can be unraveled.
The Hellions Book Nook blog zeroes in on the mechanics of this exact moment. They titled the section, The bond is not binding.
For 3 books, the audience and the characters have operated under the assumption that the bond is the permanent anchor of a writer's existence.
That the Irids view it as optional.
And the true terror of the scene is that Andarna actually complies.
For an agonizing sequence in the text, she severs the connection.
Violet feels the mental architecture where the bond resided simply vanish.
Andarna physically disappears into the sky, leaving Violet behind.
Violet is left completely hollow. The text describes it as an infinite, agonizing void.
It's terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
But, and this is why this narrative structure is so incredibly compelling, we have to look at what happens immediately after the magical tether is cut.
Right, because Violet is immediately attacked by the Venin sage, Theophany.
Violet is unbonded, powerless, and about to be completely desiccated. And who steps out of the camouflage of the jungle to intercept the Venin?
Andarna.
Exactly. She severed the magical tie, but she did not break the connection.
The blog articulates this beautifully. Separation does not equal disconnection.
I love that quote. Andarna returns to the battlefield, risking her life to save Violet, proving that their relationship transcends a mere magical contract.
It is chosen family.
She isn't fighting for Violet because a spell compels her to. She is there because she actively chooses to protect her rider.
It is a profound demonstration of loyalty over magical obligation.
It really is.
However, if we zoom out and connect this specific character arc to the macro-political landscape of Navarre,
Oh boy.
the sheer existence of the Irids has catastrophic implications.
Because the revelation of a 7th breed proves that the entire foundation of the Navarian government is a fabricated lie.
Yes. And this is where the fan community's visual analysis becomes incredibly relevant.
Yes, the viral Facebook post that analyzed the actual covers of the books.
It's such a cool theory.
When I first saw this theory, it completely recontextualized how I view the physical media of the series. Let's walk you through the evidence.
Go for it.
The cover of Fourth Wing is gold. This perfectly aligns with Andarna's initial hatchling Feathertail phase, the containment phase.
Right. Then we move to Iron Flame, and the cover is black.
Which mirrors her adolescent, weaponized camouflage phase.
Exactly. Continuing the pattern, the cover of Onyx Storm is iridescent.
This perfectly reflects the narrative phase where she is rapidly shifting colors, struggling with her biological identity.
Dealing with the instability of her transition and discovering her Irid heritage.
And the final piece of the puzzle that has the community reeling, the upcoming book, Freshing Day.
The cover is white, or opal.
It completely breaks the dark metallic aesthetic of the previous 3 covers.
The Hellions Book Nook blog synthesizes this visual data into what they call the chromatic prophecy.
The chromatic prophecy.
The argument is that the book covers are not merely aesthetic marketing choices. They are a biological roadmap.
They are documenting what Andarna is becoming in response to the escalating environmental pressure.
The blog states, her color is not growth. Her form is not fate. It is choice.
So if the next phase of her expression is opal or white, what does that biologically or magically represent?
Is it a synthesis of all light, a state of pure, unfiltered magic?
It implies she isn't just a character reacting to the plot. Her physical evolution is the plot. She is the ultimate reveal.
And we must examine the political fallout of that reveal.
The fallout is going to be massive.
The entire societal structure of Navarre, its military doctrine, its historical archives, its geographical divisions, is built upon the myth of the first 6.
6 original dragon breeds, 6 human provinces, 6 military wings.
If the general populace, and more importantly, the general military, discovers the existence of a 7th breed, the foundational justification for unification is entirely compromised.
It completely validates the journal translation that Violet and Jasenia painstakingly decoded.
Yes, the unredacted text.
Violet reads the original unredacted historical text regarding the initial creation of the Wardstones, and it clearly states, the breath of life of the 7 combined and set the stone ablaze.
The architecture of the wards fundamentally required 7 distinct magical frequencies to function.
The 6 standard breeds, plus the raw magic of the Irids.
But Navarian leadership deliberately redacted the word 7, altering it to 6 in all official records.
To control the historical narrative and consolidate power.
They systematically erased an entire sentient species from the historical record to maintain a rigid political structure.
If the writers at Basquiat realize that the first 6 is a fabricated myth, and that the failing wards were built on a